This video is supported by the bibliography shown on screen.
What do you think of people who, when they make a mistake, instead of owning up to it, blame others? Do they inspire trust? Do they seem honest to you? Or do they remind you of someone who's never wrong, because they always find someone else to point the finger at? Today we're going to talk about what happened after the 1975 fiasco. We'll go over 5 lessons that come from the way the Watchtower behaved when their predictions failed. Could it be that what the Nowachi did after 1975 was even worse than the mistake itself? Before we begin, if you're new here, just so you know, the voice you're about to hear was generated using artificial intelligence. However, the content itself doesn't come from an automated system. Every word was written entirely by the creator of this channel. You can call me Nowachi. First lesson: instead of owning their mistake, they blamed their flock. Many have swallowed that camouflaged lie that the society never said the end would come in 1975. But let's use some common sense here. If the society never said anything, then what happened? Was it just mass hysteria among the rank and file? Like millions of people across different countries, languages, and cultures all just happened to reach the same conclusion by coincidence and without help from official publications? Sure, you won't find a quote that says, "We, the governing body, solemnly swear that the end will come in 1975. But what you will find is plenty of articles in the Watchtower and Awake. Magazines feeding expectations. Nathan Knorr and Bachelor Freddie Franz, bachelor here, meaning he never married, were doing the same thing in practically every major talk they gave. And circuit and district overseers kept repeating the same message. It was like a runaway train racing downhill. And the engineer, the society, wasn't trying to stop it. They were shoveling in more coal. Here's something interesting. Just months before everything collapsed, in January 1975, Franz gave a public talk in Australia where he said he believed 1975 was a marked year. In that same talk, he recalled how the Bible students had been disappointed when Russell's prediction about 1914 failed, and he quoted Rutherford saying he had made a fool of himself over 1925. But did Franz have the intellectual honesty to be just as open when his own predictions failed? Let's look at what the Watchtower of July 15th, 1976 said. If anyone has been disappointed, it was not God's word that failed, but their own understanding based on wrong assumptions. What way to twist things around and try to confuse people. Nobody was saying the Bible had failed. Everyone knew it was the Watchtower, specifically Franz, who had gotten it wrong. But the point here was to shift the blame onto the very people they claim are their flock. Can a shepherd seriously blame the sheep for eagerly following the path he himself pointed out? A few months before it all fell apart, in the spring of 1975 in Toronto, Franz spoke before a large audience of witnesses and said that he and his associates were confidently looking forward to what the autumn would bring. But a year later, before a similar audience in the same city, he asked rhetorically, "Do you know why nothing happened in 1975? And then, pointing at the audience, he shouted, "It's because you were expecting something to happen." Yet again, that wicked habit of blaming others. He was the only one expecting something, and people followed him because of his position in the Nowachi. But incredibly, Franz blamed the witness community for the fiasco and acted as if he bore no responsibility whatsoever. It's worth noting that at that time, Uncle Nathan Knorr, then president of the Watchtower, was a very sick man, his mind seriously affected by terminal brain cancer. He died a few months later, on June 7th, 1977. The Society's denial reached the point that, when a number of publishers dropped by the thousands worldwide, they blamed materialism, nationalism, and various factors. Second lesson: they rewrote history and encouraged collective amnesia. Some of the average Jehovah's Witnesses were a bit more honest, and they started flooding Brooklyn with letters. Why didn't anything happen in 1975? And just as importantly, why wouldn't the society openly admit they had made a serious mistake? Across the JW community, district, and circuit overseers, often the same ones who had put the most emphasis on 1975 as a prophetic year, now acted just like their bosses. They turned around and blamed the ordinary witnesses. They claimed the society had never definitively said anything would happen back then, which, as we already saw, is just another sneaky little lie that ignores the whole coordinated campaign the Watchtower launched to feed expectations. Third lesson, they showed contempt for disappointed members. Harley Miller, a high-ranking official in the service department at Brooklyn headquarters, voiced what many at Bethel were really thinking. At a meeting held at the Del Mar racetrack in San Diego in 1977, he sarcastically said that any witnesses disappointed or upset over what happened in 1975 should just go sit under a palm tree near the stadium and cry. Is that how a loving shepherd talks about his sheep? Of course not. Blind loyalty to their organization had turned these men into callous, completely inhumane individuals. They themselves had praised Jehovah's Witnesses who sold their homes and businesses in anticipation of the end. In the May 1974 issue of Our Kingdom Ministry, it stated, "Reports are heard of brothers selling their homes and property and planning to finish out the rest of their days in this old system as pioneers. Certainly, this is a fine way to spend a short time remaining before the wicked world's end." And yes, exactly as the infamous Mr. Miller said, those who sold their homes and businesses when the end didn't come in 1975 and the money ran out, ended up sleeping and probably crying under a palm tree. Fourth lesson, they disguised doctrinal contradictions as new light. Frederick Franz eventually came up with a new explanation. The seventh creative day, or God's Sabbath, which was supposed to last 7,000 years based on Pastor Russell's old calculations, didn't actually start until after Eve was created. So the society should have been counting from Eve's creation, not Adam's. And based on this updated timeline, no one really knew when it began. So following that logic, and considering that it's been 50 years and the end still hasn't come, I guess Adam had a grand old time playing solo with the animals. "Hey Tiger, I wove this ball from plant fibers. Bet you can't stop my left-footed shot." Fifth lesson, they chose to protect their image rather than tell the truth. Let's not forget that the religion of Jehovah's Witnesses is, above all, about marketing. And of course, when you're selling something, you've got to protect the brand. The genuine concerns of the flock, the consequences of selling homes, businesses, and dreams, that doesn't matter to them. They don't really worship any god. They worship an organization, one that's above everything, above truth, above the flock, even above Jehovah himself. I've received comments, especially from younger Jehovah's Witnesses, saying that was a long time ago. We need to move on. And that's exactly what the Watchtower has been banking on all these years: forgetfulness, counting on new generations having no way of realizing how serious those failed prophecies really were. Because this is one of the clearest signs that they're not guided by any god. They're just men playing at interpreting the Bible, doing whatever they please with people's lives. But many of us are still here, determined to make sure these outrages are not forgotten. To wrap up, I want to share something with you. For some reason, I don't know, the algorithm isn't giving much reach to the channel's videos. So, if you think this is content worth watching and that others should know about, you can support my work by sharing, leaving a like, and subscribing to the channel. Your support makes all the difference. See you soon.